Alrighty, here is the challenge. So this battery was dead and I didn't really charge it much, and the other battery's dead and it's currently charging. So I'm hoping what doesn't happen is that both die and then I have to leave and then come back. I don't like doing that. I like doing my lectures in one sitting, in one piece. But I wanted to start this off with a quick update. So this is the last lecture that I'm going to be filming here in Mexico, because this is my last week in Mexico. I fly out to Cuba. It's hot as fuck in this room. I fly out to Cuba on Saturday. So it's incredibly stressful. There's so many things that you have to do and prepare for and be ready for prior to leaving, for example. Not that you asked, but I'll share anyway. You need to have all of the money that you're going to spend for the totality of your trip in cash prior to arrival, as US debit and credit cards do not work there, and you can't get access to money, and no way, not even to go to the US embassy over there to withdraw cash, unless you are destitute, unless you're going to die. It's the only way they'll let you have money. So you have to figure that out. Then you need a visa. Then you need to have medical insurance for the totality of your trip. Then. So we're figuring that out. But this is the last week in Mexico. And you know what's cool is I did the reflection on all the places that I've been and all the places that I'm, the site that I've been given of the places that I still have to go for the remainder of this trip. And the reason behind them based on their length, and tying it into the severity of, and I'm being very vague on purpose, but of why I need to go to this place for this length of time and its importance and how it translates, particularly with the martial arts that I'm doing. I actually don't even have to be vague for that. So I was in Brazil for 13 weeks, but 11 and a half weeks of actual training. And then in one of the countries that I'm going to be going to on this trip, God willing, that I've been given a vision and a sight for, it'll be something like 8.5 to 9 weeks. So it's a little less. And then another place, actually Cuba, I'm anticipating for 9.5 weeks. And then I was in Argentina for 7.5 weeks. I'm in Mexico right now for 6.5 weeks, etc. And in one of the countries, I think I'm going to do 5.5 weeks. And I did a parallel, and I was just like, well, what was the primary reason for that place? And it was like, okay, you need to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here. This is the best place in the world to train boxing. This one for wrestling. This one for Muay Thai. Can you guess the country which one would go to learn Muay Thai? And I did all of that, and I thought, and then it translated, what was the biggest takeaway from my time in Argentina, and it was cardio conditioning. And then in Mexico, it's been my strength and weightlifting, my bodybuilding, was strength and conditioning training. And it's fascinating because I put that as the tier list based on the duration of the importance of how it translates to me being my ultimate fighting version of myself, the best martial artist I could possibly be, the one who's enacting all of these strategies of war. And I thought that was just fascinating. It's like as if it was all written. To be here for this length of time, okay, you just need to be here for this length of time. Like nothing is insignificant. It's all carefully, methodically, divinely orchestrated. So that's a good intro. Here we go. We're on the 7th strategy of war. If you hear noise, there's a fucking zoo going on upstairs. I was walking by because I was going to film in a different room, and then it was next to a window where there was noise and cars. I said, no, we're not fucking doing it here. But the reason I didn't want to film in here is because this light was on prior to me coming in here, because this is somebody's actual office. And there's a bag right here, by me. So someone could walk in at any time and be like, hey, I'm here to work in my own office. So if that gets interrupted, I will be disappointed. I'll be like, get the fuck out, I'm not done yet. It's like, I had this when I was in undergrad, this motherfucker, one of my roommates. I was like, can I have my charger back? Give him my charger. And then he's like, what percent are you on? And it's like, you fucking toad. All right, here we go. Transform your war into a crusade. Morale strategies. So that's the 7th strategy of war. Transform your war into a crusade. Give people a reason, a cause, a worthy cause to fight for. And then when I thought of that and I reflected on a rat life, what is the most worthy cause of all? It's freedom, freedom. And when I think of all of my heroes across history, across mythology, fiction, they've all had that same cause. They've all been fighting for freedom. Spartacus in the slave rebellions, it was freedom. William Wallace in the fight against the British, it was freedom. Maximus Decimus Meridius, it was freedom when he was a general and then a slave and then he fought as a gladiator. It was all about freedom. Freedom. Edmond Dantes in the Count of Monte Cristo when he was in the Chateau d'If prison. Freedom. Santiago when he's on his quest for freedom. It's the same cause throughout history. So the first quote from the book, here we go. Lead from the front. Let your soldiers see you in the trenches making sacrifices for the cause. And the example that I put was Kobe Bryant. If you ever watch an interview today of any player who had ever played with him or played against him, the biggest recurring theme of all of them is, oh man, Kobe had such a work ethic. Oh man, he was such a hard worker. Oh, this guy would wake up at 4, at 3 in the morning, this. And then there was a story where, he goes to the gym and he teases Kobe, hi, I beat you in. And then Kobe just smiled and kept walking. And then Kobe's coach goes up to that guy and said, Kobe already had a workout. We were up at 3 in the morning. He came here at this gym just for you, to train with you. And then that humbling feeling to the other guy, like, oh shit, you know what I mean? And people are very, very smart and observant. And you notice this when you watch a movie and the director or the actor will do such a subtlety, and we appreciate it as an audience because it's not insulting to our intelligence. And writers do this as well in literary works. When someone makes something so blatantly obvious, as if, it insinuates stupidity within the audience that we're going to miss it. What I've learned is it's the same not just in film, not just in reading, but also in day-to-day activities. We are constantly observing other people. We constantly take a mental note, whether consciously or subconsciously, or unconsciously, when our boss walks into the office, when they leave, how hard they work, how long their meetings last, how long their lunch lasts. And I say that because at my old job, they would take like an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever. The rules didn't apply to these fucking weasels, and then how does that then bleed into the morale of all the staff that these people are supposedly overseeing? It's like, it's all bullshit. And then you have that, defeated spirit. You have that silent quitting. You have that, well, if the rules don't fucking apply to you, why should I work any harder? There's a disconnect between the cause that I'm fighting for and the demonstration by my leadership. Okay. So I thought of Kobe Bryant, and then I reflected on myself and who I was when I was a very, very poor leader when I was younger, when I was first starting rat life. I'd be staying in my living room, laying on the floor, binge watching the show Suits. Because I had already worked, countless hours of the day. But my brother, I remember at the time, was working full time, and so he would come home after I had already worked, 8 hours or whatever, just on entrepreneurship or on my own training, etc. But the window of time when he would see me was when I was fucking off and doing nothing. But that was then the precedent of standard of excellence of work ethic that was to be expected by him, and I never connected the two. And so then I made it a point during that time actually to wake up early and to post it on my Instagram story. And I was like, I'm going to make sure my entire team knows what time I get up and how hard I work. And even when I was in Brazil on this trip, I made it a point to post all of my workouts. And so not only would they see me in the training session that I would be in that class, for example, if I did a jiu-jitsu class and all people would see me do jiu-jitsu with them, but later on they would go home and they would see my Instagram story of, oh dude, he went to the gym before that workout and he had another training session after that workout. One of the classes was actually scheduled back-to-back. It was wrestling when I was in there I only went for 1 month because that class was riddled with fucking bullies. But in that class, when I did attend, when it was right afterwards, all of them would see me go straight from the workout that we did together right into another workout. And you would just see that nod of like, oh wow, from the same people in that class who were also bullies and teasing and making fun of. They would say like gringo and this and all this bullshit. But I learned that it's your work ethic that establishes credibility within peers, particularly within bullies. When they see your effort, when they see your work ethic, your output fucking silences their insecurities, their projections, their bullshit, their doubt. And in this book, in this chapter, Napoleon Bonaparte faced the same thing. None of the soldiers took him seriously as a 26-year-old commander, a 26-year-old general. But then when he led from the front, when he did all the examples that we're about to discuss, when he was in the trenches, when he was enacting courage, when he was, going and actually, making people feel a part of the worthy cause, a winnable fight, then he earned their respect, their admiration, and even he elicited fear from them. They were actually afraid of them. What were they afraid of? Disappointing him. You know what I'm saying? And I learned you can achieve the same thing with your team by the example that you set. And that's the importance of leadership. It's example based. It's leadership by example. It's not you preaching something and then being inconsistent with your actual actions behind it, or lack thereof. And I've worked alongside so many fucking peasants in my lifetime, of people who say something and do another, who preach morality and integrity, and then are these conniving, gossiping faggots behind closed doors. I've seen both ends of the spectrum, versus the ones who they immediately, you feel inclined to give them all of your respect. It's just by the way that they carry themselves. It's by the example that they set without saying anything. It's by their silent work, silent professionalism. Because you see it what time they wake up. I go to the office at 6. They're already there with the lights on, already working, already making a call, whatever. You see it in the way that they dress. They take pride in their appearance, pride in their groom, etc. I'm on my 10th month of traveling, so if I have my groom meshed, it's because I'm on this hero's journey right now. I'm on this hero's quest. I'm on my day-to-day normal routine. But that's just an excuse, right? But this chapter made me think a lot about my past, of who I was as a younger leader, a younger, very poor leader, and who I am now. And it's fascinating how just having a foundation in martial arts, you walk around with such a calm. It was even a comment by my buddy's mother, who I'm staying with, and she was like, you're very relaxed, you're very tranquilo. And then he translated it, and I was just like, we were eating pizza, and I was like, this is a very low stakes situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no need to be stressed or to not be relaxed at this time. But the reason I have such a high threshold for stress tolerance is because I consciously put myself into positions that are exceedingly stressful. And there's nothing more stressful than consciously putting yourself into a martial arts gym, or entrepreneurship, or a fight. The boxing exhibition that I did when I was in Argentina, like putting yourself into positions where there's actual stress. When you go into a non-stressful, environment, such as a 9-to-5 job, and you get, oh no, we have this deadline. When, I've been in positions where it's like, I don't know where my next meal is coming from. I don't know how I'm going to pay for rent. I don't know how, to defeat this guy who's trying to, break my jaw. When you put yourself into these positions, in these stressful environments, then you walk around with such an air of authority and credibility that other people can pick up on. They're like, oh, this person has actually been in the arena. They actually have mettle, M-E-T-T-L-E. They're not a knight in shining armor who has never had his mettle, M-E-T-A-L, and M-E-T-T-L-E tested. Make sense? Okay. So, first quote, after the intro quote, the way to get soldiers to work together and maintain morale is to make them feel part of a group that is fighting for a worthy cause. When you watch the speeches by William Wallace, by Spartacus, by Leonidas, they're all dying or putting themselves in positions of a willingness to die for the same thing, for a worthy cause for freedom. It's like, if we lay down our lives here, this will galvanize the Greeks. And you saw that at the Battle of Thermopylae, where the 300 hoplite soldiers, and it wasn't just them, it was 300 hoplite Spartan soldiers combined with a small group of other soldiers, I forget the number, maybe it was like 3,000 or something, of other, I think it might have been the Arcadians, the neighbors to the Greeks. Or no, they were another Greek state neighboring the Spartans. They died, and what that did was that galvanized the Greek city-states. I'm very raw in my history, which is funny because it was actually one of the required readings when I was an undergrad at UCLA. But that galvanized the Greeks, and then that was like the battle cry for them to go into battle and then to defeat the Persians later on. Boom. How? By giving them a cause worthy to fight for. You're willing to die when it's like, we need to stand at the vanguard because this is the protection of our wife and our children back at home. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about you, but I as a man cannot stand idle knowing that I would be someone who can repel danger for my family. As in, if I knew danger was afoot, I couldn't live with myself as a man standing idle and standing to the side, knowingly putting my family in greater harm, greater danger. And I think most men can align with that. We have a sense of honor. of duty, you know, of I need to lay down my life for this worthy cause. Today, we live in a bullshit world where people are dying needlessly. And you actually see this articulated in the movie Troy, where Achilles says, soldiers will fight and die for kings they've never met. And he's like, don't die, don't give your life dying for some fool's orders. He says that referring to Agamemnon, to Patroclus. That is pretty much in parallel and tandem to my stance on modern day politics. It's the vast majority of people going into these bullshit wars today are just pawns on the chessboard, dying needlessly for these greedy, we won't call them who they are, you know, that are just playing both sides. These fucking puppeteers. In earlier speeches, the ones who have no soil. But in modern day, you know, in back in time, in antiquity, there was actually, beyond just the glory of battle, but people would actually die for freedom, for the preservation of their culture, for liberty, for the pursuit of happiness, for their livelihood, you know, for combating eternal enslavement. And all that's changed is that slavery, well, I had this conversation just the other day, has never been abolished, but the vast majority of people just live in a glass prison now. And what greater prison than the one you don't know that you're in, you know? And it's done through indoctrination, through university and through school, you know, before that, high school, grade school. It's done through debt. It's done through all of the garbage that you see on social media. It's done through the dopamine flooding from scrolling. It's done through the swiping. It's done through all of those ends. I hear someone say that might be the person that whose office it is. I don't know. We'll see. But by all of those means and metrics, here, hold on, we'll pause. I completely lost my train of thought. I heard like a fucking squirrel ravaging through what sounded like, you know, water bottle packaging. So if we get interrupted, we get interrupted. We're gonna continue on. But point is, you have all of these metrics of modern day where people are dying fucking needlessly for bullshit causes, for other people who are playing the puppeteer. Today, fighting is, it ties in with so many other arguments in terms of the necessity for protection, because who you're fighting against today is the tyranny of your own government. You know what I'm saying? It's not for a worthy cause, it's not for freedom. And most people in their day-to-day, you can feel that level of defeat, that feeling of despair, that feeling of there's nothing that I can do about it, because these fucking people who would have been impeached in these forms of leadership, of ministry, of presidency in years past are able to retain their office for an entire term, if not a second, if not a continued term. And so I think we as a people have become so defeated based on military, based on technology, based on you know, the cancellation bullshit of you could just be erased, you could just be imprisoned, you could just be banished, you could be exiled and detained. And the deck is stacked so far against you that the beautiful movies that literally speak to my heart of Braveheart, or the show Spartacus, or of Leonidas and the Brave 300 giving their life for the freedom of Greece, like that is so distant today of a plausibility, of a possibility. The latest example anybody could attest is all of the files and the files and the files and all of this garbage coming to bring to light a truth of the character behind, you know, current administration or current celebrities or this, and then you're just like, okay, that's fascinating information, but what can we actually do about it? Oh, nothing. And then you couple that with the danger of AI, with everything that we see on social media being fake and being made up. It's just, we are so desensitized to garbage, to truth. I was having this conversation the other day that it's so normalized to have people dress so provocatively, or here, Ricardo, he was showing me a video of this girl, like her Instagram, and then she was undressing, like it was like, come with me while I change into my, you know, gym outfit or whatever. And I was like, in what fucking world would I allow my girlfriend or fiance or wife to change their clothes for the internet? How the fuck is this just widely accepted of, let me change my outfit for fucking strangers on the internet, no problem, and then, you know, have the thumbnail of their breasts. It's fucking wild. But that's the world that we live in today. Or I would see these AI videos of, it was like Harry Potter, the boy who drips, and it was these children saying type shit, typing. And just the profanity use amongst children and through these social media, we're so desensitized to all of this smut and all of this trash and all this garbage that it has created I want to say a generation of men who are forfeit of all fighting spirit, who have no interest or desire or prerogative to fight back against this. And I've asked myself why I don't have such or practice and retain such, rage and animosity and all of this. And I always ask myself, to what end? And all of the information that I'm being presented at any given time, what I choose to do instead is alchemize it and transcend and transmute it and galvanize it, and then take all of that and then become, or take all of that information or whatever and then use it towards this path. I've done that forever. It's the perfect illustration of what I'm talking about is Hermione in the Chamber of Secrets, where they're being fucking strangled and suffocated by whatever the trees, the roots, things, and then Ron is really fighting against it, and she's like, don't struggle, don't resist, it'll only kill you faster. And then Ron was like, well, just kill me faster, now I can relax. And then she just relaxes and lets go, and then all of a sudden it does what it's supposed to do. That's the belief system that all of life happens for you. And so anytime I'm giving you information about something, about files, about garbage, I always ask myself, I don't panic, I don't betray emotional control, emotional stoicism, I don't react. I think, I reflect, I consider, I respond. Why is this information being presented to me? Why is this being presented now? Why are they wanting me perpetually distracted? And then you see angelic videos that offer new ideas and plant new seeds of belief and understanding. It's like, what do they want? They want you upset. They want you feeling defeated. They want you reciting the lowest energies in a state of anger, of shame, of despair, versus what is the biggest threat to that? Are the ones who operate within that abundant light, in neutrality at the lowest, and then in gratitude, in peace, in serenity, in love, in authenticity, the highest vibration of them all, the highest frequency. And so if I'm operating at all of these things, right, if I'm walking in my truth, I am their biggest threat, because that light shines through the darkness, not to be, corny, but does that make sense? And that should be the prerogative of all of us, isn't to focus on all of the negative, but how can I embody unconditional love? How can I walk in my most Christ-like, transparent image of myself? How can I give off that potential, truth that other people can live up to? How can I set that standard, that bar of, I'm going to walk in my truth, I'm going to align with God, I'm going to, be somebody who is just full of sunshine and radiance and optimism and positivity and love. And then that is going to be the energy that I give off to other people, that, wow, if he has that courage to be his truth, maybe I could speak mine. Maybe I could align with my true self. Maybe I could take off one of my 1,000 masks, Okay, next thing, keep their bellies full. Take care of your team, and I put my failures with my team within Rat Life. So when I worked with Rat Life as the pre-workout supplement company, when I was doing it full-time as an entrepreneur, I betrayed this tenet of this strategy of war. Transform your war into crusade morale strategies. I would not keep my team's belly full, and that's because I was in survival mode. Every sale that I did would just go to my cost of living. It would go to my rent, it would go to my food, my gym membership, my bus pass, and it still wasn't enough, and I still had to do online coaching and personal training on the side just to not die, just to make ends meet. As a result, all the people affiliated with my group, my people who I loved so much, they got all the raw end of the deal. The commission that I was able to afford them for the pre-workout sales that they would do, they would make nothing. Their bellies would never be filled. And so how could they ever put my mission, my cause as a priority when they still had to worry about survival? And what I've observed in the best teams and organizations and missions and causes are when the team feels like, I actually learned this from Simon Sinek, I believe from the book Start With Why. When your team feels safe, when they feel safe and secure, they're no longer in fight or flight, they're no longer in survival mode, they will take risks, to innovate, to create, to build for the sake of the cause. However, if you make your team feel like their safety is threatened, their livelihood, how they're going to afford to pay their rent and their bills and keep their wife happy and feed their kids and feed themselves, then they're forced to look out for their own self-interest, as a result. And so I was cognizant of that when I was younger, but I didn't know how to, I didn't have the leadership capacity at the time to, despite a lack of resources, to still take the time and make it a priority to take care of my team. And so when I returned to California, to say that is going to be the biggest precedent that I set from day one is, number one, leading from the front, leading by example, but number two, making sure my team never feels unsafe, never feels not protected, never feels like their bellies aren't full. And I didn't know it at the time because I didn't even know how to set meetings, but something as simple as when you have a meeting, having little snacks and food there, available, and drinks and refreshments and this. But yeah, I would do meetings, and then I literally adjacent to my kitchen, and I didn't know what I didn't know, at the time. And so in the future, I know that just from the merits and tenets and virtues that I practice and embody and exalt right now, it's going to be a night and day organization, brand, vision, cause, a worthy cause. And the bellies of all of my team are going to be quite full. Okay. Quote, "He was confident of ultimate victory. After all, God was on their side." I just like that. It's fascinating how everything from relationship dynamics to how your company and organization is made up. This is at 2 bars, this battery, so we're gonna have to probably do a dance soon where I take this one out, put a new one in. It's fascinating how you get submission from the people who follow you, from your submission to God. And the best way that I can articulate God is your highest self. Imagine you've already completed the entire video game, and the person who loves you the most, more than your mom, more than yourself, more than life itself, is literally leaving you all of these breadcrumbs of, if you follow them, if you adhere to this download, this whisper, this insight, this directive, it will ultimately lead to your most ecstasy-filled, euphoric life, filled with love and fulfillment and joy and ecstasy and pleasure. All of that is on the other side of that. That is developed by a belief system that everything in my life happens for me, right? And it's from having enough evidence to prove that all the bad shit that I had endured, when you practice humility, it was a necessary catalyst, or is a necessary circumstance or event that led me to this greener pasture. For example, I'm in Mexico right now. I haven't seen the inside of an office in over a year. The only reason I'm living the life that I'm living right now is from the hell that I persevered through. All of that was a gift that happened for me, for the life that I'm living now. And what that does is substantiate that future belief system, that everything that I endure in the future, no matter how seemingly agonizing, frustrating, despairing, miserable, is always happening for me. Makes sense? But you don't get that belief system unless you've gone through that hell, that hero's journey. Okay. But I love that idea that if he be with us, who can stand against us? God is on our side. And when I was doing Rat Life before, prior to this hero's journey, I didn't harbor that same relationship with God. And so I know when I come back, even down to the martial arts gym that I'm going to be training at in Anaheim, California, it literally has a class Bible study, which is how I knew it was God's signature and little winky face for me to go to that gym to train at. Because I'm just like, what the fuck is a Bible study doing in a martial arts gym? What the fuck? But that's exactly the final piece of the puzzle that brings the whole thing together. It's God. Because it's not even, oh, I believe in God and I don't believe in God. It's, I choose to be led by my highest self, or I choose to dismiss my higher mind and then just try to figure out the how myself, which is a futile task. And it's just going through your entire life with such a disadvantage. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like you have this gift of someone who has a perma 30,000 foot view, who can see the entire puzzle, and you're trying to figure out one fucking puzzle piece. You're trying to map out the entire strategy with a single fucking puzzle piece. It's an impossible task. But versus somebody who's harnessing the power of flow. Do you know what I'm saying? by doing what I said in that Hermione analogy, by just letting go. And that's what it is. It's a constant state of surrender. It's a constant state of letting go, prying your fucking hand open to walk in obedience of where your highest self is telling you where to go and what to do. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, I have the experience of being led to do things that were terrifying or that would lead to, in the moment, utter, damnation and despair. But it's just like, and then I would have those, questions and those conversations with God. It's just like, you're telling me to do this, and this is going to be the result. Are you sure? Are you this? And I think it's a testament to your obedience and to your faith is when you walk despite the current circumstances of what they, reflect in the short term. Because most people, they'll dismiss that. Oh, see, this is garbage direction because this is what happened. Versus they don't have that zoomed out picture of, this was the necessary seed to be planted for this ultimate blossoming that you can't see yet. You know what I'm saying? That's happening right here. It's good cough. I was gonna say food for thought, and then I coughed. Okay. We're moving on. It's so hot in here. This battery's gonna die. Here we go. The secret to his success was the quality of the men that he recruited. True believers in his cause. Such men were accepting of his discipline. I like that last part the best. We're accepting of his discipline. Meaning, if you have the wrong people on the bus, which I couldn't even remember the names of the books last time from Jim Collins. It's Good to Great and Built to Last. If you have the wrong people on the fucking bus, your standard, they won't be able to breathe at that altitude. You know what I'm saying? They're suffocating. It's too high of a thermostat. And you'll notice in your organization, those people will get weeded the fuck out. Observation here. I'm staying here, and this dude who's affiliated with drugs and drinking and all this garbage, by no coincidence is he inconsistent with his attendance here at the gym, with his training, with his business, with his anything. And it's just like, yes, it's because of your garbage vices. And so that the standard here is set to where this person can't breathe here. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's fascinating how if you just operate with your standard, if other people see your work ethic, see your due diligence, see what time you wake up, how late you stay, first one in, last one out, if they see all of this, they will act accordingly. Or it'll be, Grant Cardone talks about this, I think it's in the 10X rule, or they'll leave because it's a culture they don't align with, that they feel like they don't belong here, and because they don't, And so that's the secret of success, I'm going to say it again, is the quality of the men he recruited, true believers in the cause, to where the disciplines that you set forth will align with their values. You know what I'm saying? So if you say, this is the time that we're waking up. Alex Ramosi on his team, they'll do meetings for 8 hours long to get through a problem. And the people are just like, whoa, wow, I did. And he's like, yeah, this is the standard. This is work. You know what I'm saying? We're here to get the shit done and to move forward. But other people who are not used to that, it's going to come across as, oh, no, I can't handle this. This is too much for me. That's the culture that you set by your leadership, by your example. Make sense? And what's beautiful about that is it won't feel like push motivation. People will be pulled because they already align with it. That's why I love that last part. Such men were accepting of his discipline. Well, of course. Why? Because the quality of the men that they recruited, because they were true believers in the cause. If they believe in the cause, if they believe in you, if they believe in your leadership, of course they'll be accepting of your disciplines. Okay. We're almost done. This battery's gonna die. We're gonna switch it out and pray to God for the best. Here we go. We're playing hot potato with these different batteries in this camera, so we're gonna do our best. Here we go. All right, big quote. It's a big one. That's why I highlighted it. It's really good. He found himself working harder and harder for Johnson. So this was it Lyndon Johnson? One of the commanders. His boss seemed destined for something great. It was written all over his face, and Jones felt part of that crusade, part of history. And the most important reason for Jones and Latimer's willingness to work so hard, though, was that Johnson worked harder still. When Jones trudged into the office at 5 a.m, the lights were already on. With Johnson already hard at work. He was also the last to leave. His energy was intense, boundless, and contagious. How could you let such a man down by working less hard than he did? That's the example of everything that I was talking about. Leading by example, being the first one in, being the last one out, walking around as if you're fighting a worthy cause, a noble crusade. And I even call the thing that I'm doing right now a noble quest. People have texted me, what are you doing, where are you? And I'm like, I'm on a noble quest, And that is a vision people can align with, whether they do anything or not, but they can see that this is somebody who's harboring the courage to pursue. What does that do? It inspires them. Maybe I could take more courageous footsteps, courageous action towards my own goals. I could be more daring, I could be more bold, I could close the gap of the Walt Disney quote, all dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Which he omits one thing, all dreams can come true if you have the courage to pursue them until. It's a secret. Okay. Work harder than any of your staff is the soliloquy, synopsis, summary of that last quote. Work harder than any of your staff. Your men will see you do it. They will. They'll see it in your Instagram stories. They'll see it in your reels that you post of your workout for the day. And you do that for an entire week. They see it in this is my second training session today, or my third training session. They'll see it in the videos that you're editing and the content that you're producing. They'll see it at the time that you wake up, to the time that you go to bed. If you're the last one out of the office, your team will see you. They're not stupid. They're very observant. They're very aware, especially if you're recruiting those kind of quality charactered individuals. Nice. I love when I can articulate myself well. Here we go. Ooh. In all armies, it is unity of will and purpose, which assures victory over the enemy. It was a quote by Aesop. In all armies, it is unity of will and purpose, which assures victory over the enemy. I'm saying? You need to have a team united. How do you unite a people? You unite them from the cause. I'm saying? You cannot have people divided, carrying multiple banners. No, they fight under one banner, under one cause, freedom for all. I'm saying? We are endowed with these unalienable rights, that amongst which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Morale is contagious. Yes. You as the leader set the tone. Once you have the respect, and I put by the best way, personal example. Criticism will make your followers feel as if they are disappointing you. It's so true. You see this in relationships. When you give someone nothing but unconditional love, the thought of being criticized by you is like a stab wound, like a gunshot. How could I let this person down who gave me nothing but unconditional love? I've been given criticism from these other people who never cared about me, never put me first, never saw me in this godly light, never gave me the gift of belief, never gave me unconditional love. They gave me conditional love, right? Condition based on performance, condition based on, what I would be able to give and provide to them. No, this person gave me unconditional love. And then the idea of a criticism from this person, the idea of letting this person down, it's heart-shattering, It's a fascinating observation. And this from being an athlete to a coach. When anybody gives you love, what is love? It's the gift of belief. When anybody gives you the gift of belief, they believe in you. They believe you've been underestimated, you've been this by all of these other motherfuckers your entire life. And then this person comes along and chooses, to see you here, to breathe this confidence into you of what the potential of the version of yourself that you harbor. And they're like, let me just keep breathing into that vision. That's who you are. Not this circumstance, not this condition, not this current version of you. This is transit. This is passing through. That's you. And they constantly breathe into that. How could you not work harder to not let them down? Athletes do this all the time with coaches. Students do this all the time with good teachers who believe in them, who breathe confidence in them. Why? Because they gave you the greatest gift, belief. Okay. They will see your devotion to the cause and embody your spirit of energy. So your team seeing you, observing you, emulating you. And self-sacrifice. They will work harder to please you and to live up to your high standards. You see this all the time in all those relationships. Parent to child, coach to athletes, teacher to students. They will work harder to not let you down of the vision that you've gifted them. You know what I'm saying? by your seed of belief, by the watering, by the encouragement, by all the praise, by the specific praise and recognition. One well-timed criticism, dude, will fucking have their work ethic and productivity and output be 100x'd. How could I disappoint you? Do you know what I'm saying? And people will play on that. You could say, oh, it's a form of manipulation. No, it's a form of, I mean, it is, essentially. But it's tapping into the potential of someone. And so a good leader knows when to press that button, knows when to make you feel not, I'm angry at you, I'm disappointed in you. And then how much harder will you work to not let that person down? And what is that relationship? That's love. If I loved you, I'm going to hold you to a higher standard. I'm going to expect more of you because I know you're worthy of this. I know you have so much more in you to give. Somebody who doesn't give a fuck about you, they'll let you slide. They won't hold you to a higher standard. They don't give a shit if you cut corners, if you kid yourself. But somebody who actually loves you, actually adores you, actually admires you, actually respects you, they're not going to let you do to yourself that injustice. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to give you that disservice. They're going to give you actual love, which is candor, which is those hard conversations, which is honesty. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's where people really fuck up. And I was very young when I learned that lesson, the difference between cheerleading and coaching. The difference between, oh, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings, and no, this person's a champion. I'm going to make them see that. And I'm going to bring out that champion spirit within them by not fucking tolerating this half-assed effort, this work ethic of mediocrity. They have so much more in them to give. This is bullshit. And the people who have been validating this, the people who have said, oh, I love you, in their words but not in their actions, they're fucking poisons in this person's garden. Versus I'm going to come in and I'm going to give them actual love by holding them to the standard that they deserve to be held to. You know what I'm saying? But to each their own. That's just my personal disposition. It's like when I actually care about somebody, I'm not going to allow them to kid themselves. Oh no, I can only do this, or I'm not able to accomplish or create this or build this. It's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And you can give them that gift of belief. You can water those seeds of potential. You can breathe into them such a confidence of the vision of them that you see by looking at them through the lens of love. All it is embodying unconditional love and enacting that within people, within the conversations. Never putting them down, never discouraging them, never planting poisonous seeds of doubt, of be careful, of worry about this. No. Be daring. You have nothing to lose in your one life by going for it. Be adventurous, right? Risk it all. Go all in. You can always go all in again and again and again, right? You have nothing to lose by trying ever. Food for thought. To finish, his tone and manner suggested that they were already a winning team. Imagine that. Imagine you spoke to your spouse or your significant other as if it's a given that you're a champion. It's a given that you're this amazing person. You know what I'm saying? And you make them never second guess that ever again. As in, the story was the Packers' new coach, football team, their new coach. He would speak to them never in an angry tone, but he would exude such a confidence where it was already as if they were a winning team. And I even wrote that. I wrote that right here. They were already a winning team. They just had to live up to it. That's how he made them feel just by his speech. I'm not talking to fucking losers. I'm not talking to people who do these garbage vices. I'm not talking to these people who, want to lead a life of mediocrity, of settlement, of garbage. No. I'm already talking to winners. It's just building people's confidence, self-confidence, to the point where they look at themselves in the mirror and see the person that I see. Somebody who already, I know their heart. I already know they're a champion. I already know that this person has a heart of gold. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it means to be Christ-like and to be God-like. And I learned that actually on this trip from multiple mirrors. Is what you do is you meet people where they are and you plant those seeds of those visionary seeds of belief, of potential, and you don't run ahead of them. As in, you meet them where they are, you give them flowers, you gift them that seed of belief. You embody unconditional love, those beautiful flowery seeds, you know, and then you don't run ahead of them. You don't say, fuck off, good riddance, I'm gonna give up on you. It's you wait and you water and you send love, and then it's so beautiful, the version of themselves that blossoms as a result of you meeting them where they are and you giving off that potential vibration of who they could be on the other side of their pain, who they could be on the other side of their healing, who they could be on the other side of their history of rejection, their history of abuse, their history of being made to have their light dimmed, to be made to have been felt, to feel less than, you know. I know that as a child, I was surrounded by family members and friends who made me feel average, who made me feel like nothing special, who always had me dim my light and shrink my shine and wear all these contoured masks. And then on this trip, you know, I was just like, it took me a lifetime to stop shrinking myself, to make other motherfuckers feel comfortable. And I was like, I'm never gonna do that again for you or for anybody else. And so it's fascinating, the version of yourself that emerges from, you know, knowing that life of rejection, of abandonment, of betrayal, of heartbreak, of all of this, and the version of yourself that you get to stand as now for others. Like my name, Tariq, in Arabic, it means bright star who leads the way through darkness. I now get to stand as that bright star that now can lead others out of their, you know, narrow path, out of their walk of hell, you know, to give somebody else the courage to harbor, the courage to pursue, you know, the bravery, you know, the gall, to harbor the courage to pursue on their own journey, on their own path. You know what I'm saying? They see me living out my hero's journey. They see me having the courage to step into the arena, to go to these martial arts gyms, to, you know, not give up on rat life, to go to escapetheratlife.com, to, you know, harbor the courage to pursue ceaselessly, relentlessly, again and again and again, despite all of his failures, all of his heartaches, all of his, you know, agonizing miseries and all this. You know, he's still going, he's still trying, he's still, you know, pivoting, he's still like, he's persevering until, if he can do it, maybe I can too. With that, final thing on this is freedom or slavery, victory or death. And that's how it should be. Transform your war into a crusade morale strategy. Strategy number 7 of the 33 strategies of war. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing Rat Life University that I've been doing since 2024, these lectures? Why are we doing escapetheratlife.com? Why am I walking in obedience to where God wants me to go right now in Mexico this Saturday, flying out to Cuba to train boxing? Why are we doing all this shit? Freedom. Freedom. What is the fucking alternative? What is the alternative? A life of eternal slavery. You know what I'm saying? And I love that I'm becoming the man who, with all of the training that is getting this foundation that's being built, there's such a reassured confidence in my leadership, in my emotional control, in my stress tolerance, in my, you know, ability and capacity to provide for others, to protect others, to lead others by example. And it's fascinating how when you put yourself into these conscious walks of unknown, of uncertainty, of agony, of stress, you get to then stand as that pillar of hope for your team, that rock of safety for your significant other in the future, for, you know, your family. They can see what you're doing, and then it can plant a seed of possibility, of belief within them. Maybe I can too. If he's doing this, maybe I can have the courage to write that book, or to start that podcast, or to quit my job, or to book that flight, or to whatever. You know what I'm saying? I learned that from Kobe Bryant. People, your work ethic will inspire somebody else to pursue their dream. That was his definition of greatness, is that your work will inspire somebody else to harbor the courage to pursue, which is what Rat Life is all about. What's Rat Life? It starts with belief. It is possible, whatever your thing is, it is possible. I'm worthy of it, those beliefs, right? This dream is possible. All dreams can come true if you have, what's the second part? The courage to pursue. God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. You don't need to have the resources. You don't need to have all of the puzzle pieces. You don't need to be able to see the higher, 30,000 foot view. You just have to have the courage to try, to do the walk, to persevere through all of the failure, all of the tests. When I was in Brazil, first starting martial arts, and I got bullied the fuck out of for months and time again while I was there. It was as if God was testing me to see if I was really about it. To see, no, he's just going to give up. He's just going to quit. He's just talking shit. He doesn't actually want to walk this walk. And sure enough, I persevered through all of those low-level monsters, like a leveling zone in a video game. And then I defeated that level and I went to Argentina. And I defeated that level, and the final ask of me was to go into the arena. Completed that. This week I will complete Mexico, and then next week we're on to Cuba. It's like I'm completing all of these zones by walking that courage to pursue walk until. Do you know what I mean? And that, at the end of the day, in anyone's hero's journey, it's the same fucking walk. It's the narrow path. It's, are you willing to walk in obedience to where God is calling you to go, regardless of how scary, regardless of the fear, regardless of what you feel like is, freedom is on the other side of that always. Always. And the only way out is through. The only way out through your life of fucking depression, of anxiety, of misery, of, the quote, most men lead quiet lives of despair. The only way out is through, is to have perseverance and resilience. The perseverance to see it through no matter what. Like in a marriage, for better or for worse, till death do us part. That's actually from the Bible. I found out, I read it in, it was either Ruth or the chapter that I'm on right now, Samuel book 1. And yeah, it said literally, till death do us part. Fascinating. With that, thank you guys for checking out escapetheratlife.com. Tarcaps, Rat Life University. What is Rat Life? Starts with belief. The curse to person. With that, we're all gonna make out to go get some food. I'll talk to you guys in the 8th strategy of war. Okay, bye.